I think people can often conflate introversion with not liking people or not being comfortable around people, and it's not the same. You can be an introvert but be very people centric, which is it sounds like you are. I mean, portrait photography, you know, you've got to have good people skills and you've got to be enjoying that connection. It just doesn't mean that you know, like you said, go and enjoy, you know, being the center of attention in a large group of people. But it's interesting. How does that shape your creative approach, being that type of introvert? I mean, I guess you base it a lot around just connection.
Yeah, I do. There's a New York Times best-selling author. He's wrote, I don't know, probably eight to 10 books, something like that. He's written a lot of books, but what he writes about and what he researches right now is what he calls soundtracks. And these are the stories that we tell ourselves over and over, the repetitive thoughts that we tell ourselves in our head, and kind of how to break down some of the soundtracks that you maybe have had before, right? Like, oh, an introvert means this, an extrovert means this, right? And what I say instead, which is actually right to your point. And I heard this from one of his just one of his videos at one point, and I was like, oh, that's exactly what it is my soundtrack is not I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert. My soundtrack is I'm built for people. And so what, like that's what I want to be doing. I'm not antisocial. I'm like, I want to connect with a human every day. And knowing that about myself is hugely helpful, right? It influences, yes, how I go about, running my business, because it can be super lonely, right? If you're a solopreneur and it's just you working. I'm sure you've had, people talk about that level of loneliness that can be, reached, or me moving across the country and not having a support system, not having my family there, right? That can also be super lonely. And knowing the piece about myself of I'm built for people, really helps me to engage with the client who's in front of me, and see them each as a unique opportunity.
I think you touched on being lonely there, and I think that's an important point for people to understand. Actually, the irony is, it's very difficult for people to understand, even if you have a team around you, but it's your thing. No one really understands like why you work the hours that you do to get the smallest thing right, because they don't have the same investment in it, right? Emotional investment in it. So yeah, like a solopreneur is even photography generally, it's a very individual pursuit, right? It's you with that camera. Even if you have a team of other people around, it's still you with that camera making those decisions in the frame or whatever you might be doing. So it can be very solitary, and some people love that, right? But I kind of like you. I think you have to have a bit of both. I like to have my own space and my own creative thoughts with that camera, but I kind of need that connection as well. So it is interesting that you have that approach with business. Let's touch upon business a little bit. You've recently moved across country, and I want to talk about that in a minute, how that's affected your business. But tell me, a 30,000 feet view of your business and how you've created that over time. Tell me more about your business model, because I know it's not just about photographing seniors. Just give us a high level overview.
Yeah, the piece that you'll see the most, on my media, will be senior photography and videography. I also do fine art school portraits. So I photograph schools and several hundred kids every fall with it. I do branding stuff. I do brand videos, right? So there's this whole photography pillar, right? Photography and videography is one of the pillars. Education is another pillar that I love. I've had my own, like, do it at your own pace. I've sold courses and taught on webinars and podcast and speaking engagements and stuff like that. These conferences and stuff, and taught workshops and retreats and things. So there's the education piece. So there's photography, there's education, and then the last kind of umbrella, the piece that I actually really love is the mentoring and coaching kind of piece, and that's kind of consulting on operations, systems, workflows to help not just photographers, but a lot of creatives, because we all are using the exact same tools, and but nobody taught us how to use those tools, right? Like we learned how to use our camera, or we learned how to write, a beautiful essay, or, whatever our creative endeavor is. And, none of it, like I didn't become a photographer so that I could, figure out an email uh campaign sequence. Right, like I'm not in this for web design, or like workflow optimization and stuff like that. And so those are areas that I happen to have a decent amount of skill in, and that I can also kind of come in and work with other photographers, other creative entrepreneurs who need some help streamlining things. And so that kind of coaching consulting aspect, I always call that being a business mom. And so I'm like, like, does your business need a mom? Do they need somebody to come in and say like, okay, this is where this goes. This is where this goes. Um, in corporate, it would be called a COO. In entrepreneurial, it would be called an integrator, or, sometimes like a really high level OBM. And so I do that, and I take those clients at different points in time. And so there's kind of a coaching and consulting piece too. So those are my three umbrellas: photography and videography, photography education, and then the consulting.
Cool. How do people find out about your, I guess, mentorship and coaching, and what structure does that take?
It can take a couple of different structures. Sometimes I'm hired for, like project based. Okay, we need to, like bring on a whole new system or something like that. I want to I have an online course, and I don't know what platform to use. I don't know how to, actually get it out into the world. I don't know how to sell it. I don't know how to run ads. So it can be project based. And I'm not doing this as much anymore, but at one point it was also, kind of like a part-time position, in a job. And so I've had a couple of people that I've gone in and worked with, for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and, just kind of keep running all of their systems and operations, and kind of helping them optimize them. So it can look a lot of different ways, but I like it. It's very, very connected work for me. And it's also very, very freeing for whoever the creative is that I'm working for, because then they're actually free to be the visionary of their own business and of their own, company. And they've got somebody else who's worrying about the nitty gritty that's, kind of in the background. So
Yeah. And so how does that business going to change, or it is changing now you've made that move from West Coast to East Coast?
yeah, so I'm not 100% certain that I have all the answers for that one yet, but I will say I do have my youngest kiddo who is, who's still on the West Coast. And so I'm bouncing back and forth quite a lot, and so that we can spend time together and connect. And so, yeah, so I still have my, I'm still licensed and have a business presence there on the West Coast with that. And we'll see. We're kind of coming to the end of what the natural senior season is anyway. So I always say, like, by November 1st, I'm done, with my photographing seniors. And so we'll see kind of how the next months shake out, because I don't know, the season might be very different here too. So might be able to do a little bit more. I don't
Mm,
know.
mm. What does the next few years look like for you? I think just settling into North Carolina again, and not growing business from scratch, but getting that business locally up and running.
Yeah, yeah, that could definitely be one of the things that it looks like. I have other, I don't know, I have ideas and some things that are kind of percolating back there, that that won't, that the idea that won't go away, kind of thing. So we'll see kind of where that lands. Yeah, I don't have all the answers for that one yet, which is kind of exciting and just a tiny bit
Yep.
terrifying.
Yeah.